One of the greatest blessings in life is having Christian parents. It is also a great blessing in life to be a Christian parent. I am thankful that I had Christian parents. We need more Christian parents. They have a vital part in producing Christian families, stronger churches, and a stronger nation. As we look around us, we realize there must be a shortage of Christian parents. The family is in trouble. There is divorce on the increase. There is child abuse. There is delinquency of all kinds among young people. Just a variety of problems that we find at the family level. And even in good families, good being in quotation marks, it is said that about 1/2 of the children will quit church after they leave home. Certainly the family needs help if it is to produce better individuals, faithful Christians, and stronger citizens. What can be done to make the family what it ought to be? I want us this evening to look at an Old Testament example of a family that served God. In Numbers chapter 26, verses 58 and 59, which is in a text that is listing the people, we have this statement. These also were Levite clans, the Libnite clan, the Hibronite clan, the Malite clan, the Mushite clan, the Korahite clan. Kohath was the forefather of Amram. The name of Amram's wife was Jochebed, a descendant of Levi, who was born to the Levites in Egypt. To Amram she bore Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. Here we have 3 familiar names. May not always remember Amram and Jochebed, the parents, but we know the names of those 3 children. And I want us to look at the family here and how it functioned. First, we consider the children in the family. Amram and Jochebed had these 3 children, and all 3 children served God. There was Miriam, the daughter. She was the oldest. She was at least 4 years older than Moses, probably more. She showed concern and wisdom in behalf of the infant Moses. When Moses was put out into the little basket into the Nile River, hoping to save his life, she was the one who watched the basket. And when Pharaoh's daughter saw the basket, realized the baby was in the basket, Miriam was there and she said, would you like for me to find a nurse for this baby? And sure enough, Moses' own mother was the one who nursed him for the next several years. In Exodus chapter 15, verse 20, Miriam is mentioned by name as Aaron's sister. And we're also told there that she was a prophetess. She sang the song of victory and praise at the crossing of the Red Sea. Of course, we know that Miriam, like everyone else, was not without faults. In Numbers chapter 12, verse 1, she spoke against Moses because of his wife. Moses had left Egypt. He'd left his own people there as well. And in this foreign land, he had married a Cushite, an Ethiopian. And so Miriam says, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? First, she criticizes Moses' wife, and then she says, well, hasn't God spoken through Aaron and me as well as through Moses? Well, God did not like that statement. It indicated jealousy over leadership. God had chosen Moses to be the leader. And so, Miriam was struck with leprosy. Aaron cries out to Moses, you've got to do something about this. You need to cry out to God about this. Moses spoke to God, and God healed Miriam. Now, she was a leper for 7 days, but then she was restored. Scripture tells us that Miriam died at Kadesh. And Miriam certainly played a part in Israel's history. Well, we have Aaron, the brother of Moses. And we've heard quite a bit about Aaron. Maybe we don't fully know about him, but we know that he was Moses' spokesman. He was Moses' right-hand man. Now, he was 3 years older than Moses. but he took a lesser position. God selected Aaron because he could speak fluently. Perhaps he chose Aaron because he was Moses' brother as well. And Aaron had influence among the people. He did the very important thing of accepting Moses' leadership most of the time. Aaron served God. As I said, he was the spokesman for Moses. He didn't have anything original to say, really. He just repeated what God received from Moses. But that was a very important role. And of course, Aaron was in the priesthood. Now think about being a priest under the Old Covenant. You really experienced a loss of personality. You had a very important role, but you were really a faceless figure. Aaron performed years of precise, faithful service in performing the duty of offering sacrifices. As we recall, his sons, 2 of them, showed disrespect and died. Leviticus chapter 10. Nadab and Abihu showed disrespect and were struck dead. It's interesting that Aaron was forbidden to mourn for them. Imagine that. 2 sons are killed, and you said, don't show any grief for them. Aaron was consecrated as the high priest. He was the head of an hereditary priesthood. He was the first. Aaron played an important part in Israel's delivery from slavery and during the wilderness years. Well, Aaron also had his faults. We do remember Aaron and the golden calf. Maybe Aaron was seeking a compromise. People said, we don't know what's happened to Moses. He's been gone now just about 40 days. We don't know what's happened to him. Make for us a god. And Aaron made an image, a golden calf. And he may have had in mind, okay, I'm going to make this image that I want the people to worship God. That's what they'll do. They'll worship the true God. Well, that didn't work. We tend to worship images if we have images to worship. That's why we shouldn't have them. Aaron was guilty of listening to the people rather than listening to God. And of course, when he was confronted with what he had done, he offered an excuse. And I don't think anyone has ever bought the excuse that Aaron offered, that I just threw the goat in the fire and this is what came out. That's not the way that works, is it? Somebody had to shape that goat into the image. Well, God was angry enough to destroy, but Moses prayed for Aaron, for the people, and they were spared. Aaron was spared. Aaron was also guilty of murmuring, as was his sister. On occasion, ambition and jealousy became a part of his heart. And he may have been influenced by Miriam, his sister. Aaron was also involved in the striking of the rock at Meribah, Numbers chapter 20, verses 10 through 13. He and Aaron, that is Moses and Aaron, gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of the rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give you." On this occasion, Moses was supposed to speak to the rock. He responded before Israel, and Aaron with him, basically in anger, as he struck the rock, as he said, "We'll get you water." Aaron was a part of that. And so Aaron, as well as Moses, was denied entrance into the promised land. Aaron, it seems, was easily led astray by others. Well, despite his sin, God used him. He died at the age of 123 years. And after he died, there was 30 days of mourning for him. And then the third child was Moses. We know a good bit about Moses. There's always more to learn. Several sermons could be devoted to Moses. We remember how he escaped the baby slaughter. He became the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He was educated in Egypt. He had a love and loyalty for his own people. And as he got into adulthood, as he went out among his people who were in slavery, he saw one of them being mistreated, and so he defended him, and in the process killed the one who was attacking the slave. Well, he hid the body. But what he saw was done. It was seen by some of his own people. And when he sought to intervene, as two of them were arguing, one of them said, "Will you kill us too?" God used Moses to lead his people out of Egypt and to lead them to the promised land. As we recall, Moses was reluctant to accept that task. Exodus chapter 3 tells us of all the excuses that Moses offered. He basically said, "Well, Lord, would you get someone else?" But he did fulfill the task of leading the Israelites. And Moses endured a great deal during his time of leadership. He became one of the greatest figures in all of the Bible as we read through Scripture. He's prominent in the Old Testament. He's spoken of often in the New Testament. The law that God gave to Israel was named the Law of Moses. Moses, as we've seen, was not free from sin. He struck the rock. Shouldn't have done that. Because he showed disrespect for God on that occasion, he was not allowed to enter the promised land, but he was allowed to see the promised land before he died. So we have three important figures in one family, and they all serve God. In the prophet Micah, chapter 6, verse 4, we read this statement from God: "Indeed, I brought you up from the land of Egypt and ransomed you from the house of slavery. And I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam." Well, these are the children in the family. We also have the parents in the family. Where did these three outstanding people come from? They were all from the same family. Their parents were Amram and Jochebed. Amram was a descendant of Levi. Not much is known. Jochebed, the name means Yahweh is glorious. We don't know much about them, but we can see evidence of how they parented. They certainly showed love. They hid Moses. The order had been given, as you recall, all the baby boys are to be drowned. All of them are to be killed. The Pharaoh was trying to prevent the Israelite males from becoming so numerous that they could be an army against the Egyptians. How do you keep a baby hidden? Babies cry. It's just amazing the volume that babies have. But they managed to do it. I think it was about 3 months. Finally decided something else had to be done. And they were putting that baby above their own safety. Remember what we read in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 23? "By faith Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents, because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict." Now, it would be hard to lose a child, but there were many in Israel in that day that did. They did so rather than risk punishment. In the case of Amram and Jochebed, they could have said, "Well, you know, we have 2 children. We even have a boy and a girl. Maybe we should just let him die." But no, they didn't. They took the personal risk. They went to great effort to save the baby. And surely there must have been some training, some religious training, done by Jochebed and Amram. We know that Jochebed nursed Moses. She fed him. And she not only fed him, she taught him. It was common in those days for a baby to be nursed for 2, 3 years, maybe even a little longer. Think of the stories that the mama and the dad could have told to little Moses during those early years. Stories about the one true God. Moses had a love for his people. That must have come from his early years. And that love was strong enough to cause him to choose service to God rather than the benefits of Pharaoh's house. We read in Hebrews of how Moses gave up the temporary pleasures of sin to be with his people, to serve his God. The 3 godly children indicate that godly parents existed. But then there's a very important factor here. God was in the family. Many families have wonderful children. They have dedicated parents, but they're still failure. The missing ingredient is God. God was very much a part of this Old Testament family. They all followed God. They didn't follow him perfectly, but they followed. The children were taught to love God. A minister asked the children in a Sunday school class, "Why do you love God?" And one of the best answers he received was, "Well, I guess it just runs in the family." Our family loves God. God must be a vital part of our families. And we see the influence of God in many families. There are families that I've known over the years, some well-known, some not so well-known. Good parents. They produced leaders in the church, elders, preachers, Bible teachers. It is said that one family in Kansas had produced 150 Christians who live all over the United States. Don't think there was a famous preacher in the bunch, but that family has been a powerful influence. And so we always have to ask ourselves, is God a part of our family? Does everyone in our family serve God? Are all who are old enough Christians? We know some families where the mama's a Christian, the daddy isn't, or vice versa. In some families, there's religious division. In some families, the attendance at worship and Bible classes and what it ought to be. It's a very serious thing to be parents, to have children. Our families are helped when the Christian parents are Christians. Our families are stronger. That makes a great contribution even to our society, to our nation. And Christian families don't happen by accident. It takes a lot of effort, doesn't it? A family requires children, parents, and to be the family it ought to be, it requires God. I first prepared a sermon on this text when Angie was about 3 years old and Andrew was in production. It was, I think, a Mother's Day sermon when it was first preached. And I feel like the mother who said before she got married, she had 3 theories about raising children, and that now she had 3 children and no theories. Recall one preacher, I think a well-known preacher, who said that he used to preach a sermon on telling folks how to raise their children. Something like 10 commandments for parents. Then he had children. While they were young, he changed it to 10 suggestions for raising children. He said after a few more years, I just quit preaching the sermon. He realized that he didn't know near as much as he thought he did back before he had children. Well, all we can do is our best. And all we can do is to be Christians. to reach out to children, even after they grow up, to reach out to those grandchildren. You just don't take them to the carnival. You're with them in church. You're with them in a spiritual way. We leave a legacy for our children. It was Mabel Matson who wrote these words. My parents left me neither gold, nor land, nor a famous name. They left me wealth of another sort, dearer than gold or fame. They gave me a sane and open mind, a body clean and strong, a heart that thrills to a child's deep trust, and the shining gift of song. They gave me a love of the beautiful in earth and sea and sky. And I like the last couple of lines especially. And a faith in the fatherhood of God I will cling to